Naruto is a manga series created by Masashi Kishimoto. It was first published in 1999, and since then, it has spawned countless movies and anime series, and even a spin-off series based on the children of the heroes of the original series. What made this series so successful? In my opinion, I think it is the parallels between all of the reincarnations present in the series. In this series, the concept of reincarnation doesn't come up until the very end, but when it does, it is easy to look back on earlier chapters and see the parallels between the conflicts and personalities of the different reincarnations. Come with me as we look at the three that are present in the Naruto series. Of course, this discussion will be filled with spoilers, so go and read or watch Naruto if you didn't do so already. The first characters timeline-wise are Indra and Asura Otsutsuki. They were brothers, and each would become predecessors of some of the greatest clans of the ninja world. The Otsutsuki clan was a clan of celestial beings, aka aliens. Thus, Indra and Asura were half celestial being, half human hybrids, but despite that, they lived a relatively happy childhood. When they were old enough, they began to learn ninju from their father, Hagoromo. At that time, ninju was a religion, however it would later be weaponized and morphed to eventually become ninjutsu. Asura was the older one, and he always felt that he was under the shadow of his older brother Indra. Indra was naturally gifted in ninju, and he would eventually even become the creator of ninjutsu. Since Asura's skills were not as strong, Asura focused more on building relationships and working together. This would become the seed that led the brothers down very different paths. During their early lives, Black Zetsu would visit Indra and tell him he was powerful and that his skills could easily surpass his father. In reality, Black Zetsu was the physical manifestation of Kaguya Otsutsuki's will, and so she did this so that she could steer Indra towards a dark place. In the anime, Hagoromo sends his two sons to different villages as a test to determine who will become his successor, and the different ways that the two complete their respective missions really highlight the differences in morals and thought that the two have. When Asura arrived at his village, he found that the village was thriving. However, due to the recent rise in robberies, the villagers were initially hostile towards him, but he quickly earned their trust by healing a girl named Kana, who would eventually become his wife. Eventually, together with the villagers, they find out that while the god tree made the land lush, it also sucked away the nutrients of the people, making them sick. However, the god tree was so important to the livelihood of the people that the village elder refused to destroy it. In order to give the villagers an alternate way of thriving, Asura worked hard to dig a well, and he eventually struck water and it flowed and turned into a lake. With this lake, the villagers had an alternate way to keep their crops watered, and they destroyed the god tree. With his task over, Asura returned to his village with a few of the villagers, including Kana. However, when he returned, he was shocked to find out that Indra had completed his mission a few months prior to his return. In contrast to Asura's mission, Indra's story was relatively short. When Indra arrived at his designated village, he quickly figured out that the god tree was stealing the villagers' nutrients and using it to create fertile land. However, instead of working with the villagers, Indra used his Sharingan to force the villagers to destroy the tree and discover water. When he returned from his mission, he was happy to see that Asura still hadn't returned, but that quickly turned to irritation when he found out that his father wanted to wait until Asura finished his mission in order to make his final decision. Here, we can see the differing ways that they approached the same problem. In psychology, Asura's method of solving the problem is called the bottom-up approach. He felt that working with the villagers and getting them to trust him as a leader was vital to get the job done. In the long term, this was beneficial to him as his actions helped build connections with another village. Indra's approach, however, is called the top-down approach. In this approach, the opinions of the people at the bottom aren't that important. Here, Indra saw what needed to be done and forced everyone to do it. Although he gained the same short-term end result, he gained no trust, no colleagues, and he didn't learn anything. Later, the village that Indra helped became aimless and selfish, so while solving their problem, he created more problems. Now, let's get back to the main story. Eventually, Hagoromo picked Asura to become his successor. Indra felt that it was his birthright to become the successor, so he became jealous and fought Asura for the title. Asura didn't want to fight his brother and asked him to reconsider, but his mind was already made up. Asura combined his chakra with the rest of the village's chakra and was able to defeat Indra. Indra fled and the brothers never saw each other again. However, before passing away, Hagoromo said that Asura would need to stop Indra from undoing all the good in the world, even if it was in another life. With that, Asura vowed to reincarnate to ensure that, one day, he would be able to end the feud with his brother. At the end, nothing is solved between the two brothers. Indra is adamant that his selfish ways are the best, and Asura isn't able to change his mind. After their passing, Asura and Indra reincarnate again and again, but it isn't until centuries later that Hagoromo's last words start to become a reality. Madara and Hashirama were born during the Warring States period. In their younger years, they met at a lake and became friends that would skip stones at each other. They quickly grew close and bonded over their lost siblings. However, as this was the Warring States period, they were unable to give out their family names in fear that others would hunt them down. Unbeknownst to them, their respective clans were intense rivals, and many of their family members were killed by each other's clan. When they met, they imagined a world where children like themselves didn't need to fight. Even though they were very young, they were forced to fight on the battlefield. Eventually, they both found out each other's last names, but it was Madara who chose to end his friendship with Hashirama so that he would have no reservations with killing him in the future. After that, they both grew stronger and stronger, and they would frequently fight each other on the battlefield. Eventually, they became leaders of their respective clans. At this point, Hashirama began to extend multiple offers of peace, but Madara refused every time. Despite this, the Uchiha clan began to lose battles, and multiple members of the Uchiha clan began to deflect to the Senju clan. Eventually, Madara waged a final assault on the Senju clan, but they were easily defeated. However, instead of killing the Uchiha clan, Hashirama offered peace again, but this time he offered to kill himself if it meant that the clans would stop fighting. Finally, this moved Madara to accept the terms and bring the clans together to create Konoha, but this wouldn't turn out to be the happy ending that Hashirama wanted. After Konoha was formed, Hashirama began to see the differing ideals that he and Madara had when it came to peace. To Hashirama, peace meant cooperation with new villages, but Madara felt that peace was only obtained by controlling others. This is a direct parallel with Indra and Asura's state of mind when they went to help the villages in their missions. When Hashirama was eventually elected as Hokage, this put Madara even more on edge as he felt it was a possible first step that would eventually lead to a Senju clan takeover. Eventually, Madara read an old tablet of the history of the world that showed that peace was always ended through war, and he became jaded. He believed that the whole concept of Konoha was just denying the inevitable. With this, he left the village. Although he left, he would return to Konoha multiple times to attack the village. However, he was unsuccessful. Eventually, he brought the nine-tailed fox during his attack, and it was then that he challenged Hashirama to a battle where he was subsequently killed. However, due to the effects of Izanagi, Madara's death is rewritten to be nothing more than a dream, but Madara and Hashirama would never meet again during their natural lives. Just like Indra and Asura, Madara and Hashirama had two contrasting ideals and were never able to find a middle ground. When Konoha was created, it seemed that things would improve, but it was nothing more than a lull in the eventual storm that would come. It wasn't until Hashirama was reincarnated due to the Jitsu summoning impure world reincarnation that the two reconciled their friendship, but it was already too late. Hashirama was technically already dead, and Madara was on his way out. However, their next reincarnation would take everything that their past lives did and turn it on its head. Before even mentioning Naruto, we need to talk about Naruto's parents. His mother, Kushina Uzumaki, was a Jinchuriki, and she had the nine tails sealed within her. The Uzumaki clan possessed an unnaturally strong life force, but the act of birth lowered the effectiveness of the seal holding in a tailed beast, so special accommodations were made so that her seal wouldn't be weakened during the birth. However, a disguised Obito ambushed them and released the nine tails from her and used it to attack Konoha. Minato, Naruto's father and the fourth Hokage, sacrificed his soul and split the nine tails chakra in half. sealing half in him and half in Naruto, causing Naruto to become the new Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails. Minato had envisioned that his son would be lauded as a hero due to the sacrifices that happened on that day, but that would not happen, at least at first. When Naruto was young, he was in relative isolation. The adults of the village hated him for containing the beast that killed their Hokage and almost destroyed their village. Children his age would always bully him, and he always acted out towards everyone because he just wanted a friend. As he entered the Ninja Academy, he quickly began a one-sided rivalry with Sasuke, who was talented and popular with classmates, everything that Naruto was not. However, Naruto also gained his first mentor, Iruka. Iruka was tasked by the third Hokage to keep Naruto in line. At first, Iruka held the same reservations to Naruto that others had, but eventually warmed up and Naruto came to be like a little brother to him. Along the way, Naruto became close with the owner of Ramen Ichiraku and his daughter, as Naruto was a frequent customer. Although Naruto's life started off in segregation, he slowly began to bond with more and more people. However, the same cannot be said about Sasuke. Initially, Sasuke's life was very normal. He was born to a loving family and he always looked up to his older brother Itachi. Itachi was naturally talented and Sasuke wanted to be just like him. However, one night would change Sasuke's life forever. Itachi was already an Anbu that time, and unbeknownst to Sasuke, Itachi was also a double agent for the third Hokage. Eventually, Itachi found out that the Uchiha clan wanted to stage a coup on the village, and so Danzo gave him a choice: side with the Uchiha and have his brother killed during the conflict, or slaughter his entire clan and have his brother spared. For Itachi, the decision, though difficult, was obvious. He loved his brother and would do anything for him. On the night of the massacre, Sasuke came home at night. As Sasuke ran through the streets finding more and more of his family killed, he eventually made it to his own house where he saw his mother and father who were freshly killed. As he ran out of the house, Itachi approaches him and states that the reason that he killed the clan was to prove himself. At this point, Itachi is so racked with guilt at killing his clan, and so he wanted to stir something in Sasuke so that he would eventually pursue him and kill him as punishment for his crimes. With that, Itachi left the village and Sasuke had to deal with the repercussions of his brother's actions.
After that day, Sasuke became much more of a loner, despite having so many classmates as fans. Sasuke's only goal was to kill Itachi, and so he didn't feel the need to form bonds with anyone else, as he was too busy training. This is in stark contrast to Naruto, who was almost universally hated, but began to make a few strong bonds with people. Eventually, Naruto began a one-sided rivalry with Sasuke, but it wasn't until they graduated that they would begin to interact more. After graduating from the academy, Naruto and Sasuke would find themselves on the same team along with Sakura. When the team forms, Sasuke shows little interest in being on the team as his only goal is to kill Itachi. Just like Indra and Madara, Sasuke doesn't believe in looking for others to help him, so he deems the entire team process to be unnecessary. On the other hand, Naruto is always looking for ways to compete with Sasuke and prove to Sasuke and himself that he is worthy of being a Konoha ninja. Their mentor, Kakashi, gives them a bell test, and this really highlights the lack of teamwork that is present in the team. Throughout the test, Sasuke constantly faced Kakashi on his own, and since Kakashi is a Jonin, he was always able to one-up him despite Sasuke's skills. Similarly, Naruto would rush to Kakashi on his own without thinking up a plan. All he cared about is the possibility that he would overpower him and finally get the acknowledgement that he truly desired. As you can expect, Team 7 fails their test and Naruto is forced to go without food. However, at the end, we see Sasuke and Sakura give Naruto food, providing us with a small ounce of hope that things will get better. And it does, slowly. Eventually, Team 7 has a mission to escort Tazuna to the Land of Waves. Along the way, they are ambushed by Zabuza and Haku. I feel it is during this fight that we finally see them really act as a team and mesh well. Kakashi is trapped in a water prison and Sasuke and Naruto work together to break him out. However, it isn't until the second fight with Zabuza and Haku that we can see Naruto and Sasuke's growth in their relationship. At some point during the battle, Sasuke and Naruto are at the mercy of Haku's senbon, which are pointy medical needles. As Sasuke has a Sharingan, he slowly becomes more accustomed to Haku's moves, but Naruto isn't as lucky. Haku perceives Sasuke to be the bigger threat, so he decides to finish off Naruto with a barrage of senbon, but Sasuke shields Naruto from the attack and takes the needles to the chest. This is a big change from previously. Before, he believed that other people were in the way of his own goal of killing Itachi, but now he is protecting others even at the expense of his own health. From then on, Team 7 starts to operate more like a team, and their missions start to bring them more and more success. However, an event during the Chunin exams would test both Team 7's will and Sasuke's own inner strength. During the second stage of the Chunin exams, Orochimaru confronts Sasuke and brands him with a cursed seal. After receiving the seal, Sasuke is unable to use anything but taijutsu or else the seal will flare up. Kakashi seals it to prevent it from doing so, but he warns Sasuke that the seal would only stay hidden if Sasuke wants it to. However, Sasuke's craving for power eventually gets the better of him when Itachi shows up to kidnap Naruto. Sasuke's power is nothing compared to Itachi's. Upon reflection, Sasuke realizes the growth in strength that Naruto has had as well. With that, Sasuke challenges Naruto to a fight, but even then, he realizes that Naruto's strength is starting to surpass him. Thus, when the Sound Four ambush Sasuke, he eventually decides to go with them, leaving Konoha and his team in order to gain the strength to eventually be able to kill his brother. Just like Madara and Hashirama, there was a period when Sasuke and Naruto actually got along and worked together for a common cause. However, Orochimaru came along and provided something that Sasuke couldn't resist: power. Just like other reincarnations before him, Sasuke leaves the company of others to pursue his own goals. Meanwhile, Naruto continues to acquire more and more allies and teachers, and he starts to become the beacon of hope to many. However, this is where the similarities end between them and Madara and Hashirama. After Sasuke's departure from Konoha, a Sasuke recovery team is made with the whole purpose of locating and bringing Sasuke back to Konoha. However, when they do find him, they find out that he has no interest in coming back to Konoha and fights Naruto again. This time, Sasuke edges out with a victory due to his newly gained power from the cursed seal. Despite Sasuke's complete disregard of Konoha and Team 7, Naruto never gives up on him. Although Sasuke continues along deeper and deeper into his hatred, it isn't until his final battle with Itachi that he starts to see the light again. The fight is a long and intense battle, but at the end, Sasuke wins out because Itachi's terminal illness gets the better of him. Right before he slumps over, Itachi attempts to take Sasuke's eyes, but instead of doing so, he taps Sasuke on the head, just like he did when they were younger. This doesn't make any sense to Sasuke, but he passes out before he can contemplate it further. When he gets up, he finds that Obito, who is disguised as Madara Uchiha, treated Sasuke's wounds. However, as soon as Sasuke sees Obito's Sharingan, Sasuke's eyes automatically use Amaterasu on him. Obito comments on the lengths that Itachi would go to protect Sasuke, but Sasuke doesn't believe him. Obito tells Sasuke the true story about why Itachi killed the Uchiha clan that night. It wasn't to prove his skills. It was a deal he made with the Konoha leadership so that he could protect Sasuke. Obito tells Sasuke of Itachi's entire story, and Sasuke realizes that all of Itachi's actions were done to protect him and Konoha. With this, Sasuke begins his journey towards the light. After that, Sasuke and Naruto clash again, but it isn't until the climax of the Fourth Shinobi World War that Sasuke returns to Naruto's side. With the war well on its way, Sasuke finds a reincarnated Itachi and together they fight Kabuto. At the end of the fight, Sasuke states that he still wants to destroy Konoha because he felt that it was because of it that the brothers were put in that situation. With that, Itachi unconditionally supports his decision and says that he will love him regardless. With Itachi's last words, Sasuke really begins to question everything that he knows about a village, a clan, and even a shinobi. Thus, Sasuke finds Orochimaru and he summons the previous 4 Hokage in order to know more about why the village was formed in the first place. Finally, after hearing all of them, Sasuke decides to protect Konoha, as destroying it would undo all of the good that Itachi strived for during his life. With that, he goes to the battlefield and joins Sakura and Naruto, making Team 7 whole again. However, this still isn't the end. After Sasuke helps the allied shinobi forces take down Kaguya and save the world, Sasuke still wants to kill the tailed beast and all of the Kage. Here, he states that these were the ones that failed the villagers and thus should be killed. Naruto steps in and the two have a final fight, and at the end, it ends up as a tie as both lose an arm and cannot move. There, the two talk to each other, and Naruto reveals that Naruto never gave up on Sasuke because it hurt him to see Sasuke going through a tough time. Through that, Sasuke finally has an epiphany. He spent his entire life pushing others away just so that he could accomplish his own selfish goals. With that, Sasuke's mind has finally changed and he began his path toward peace and forging relationships. In many ways, Sasuke and Naruto's stories were similar to the previous reincarnations. They were two people at odds with each other as one focused on the self and the other focused on the group. But at the end, Naruto's tenacity and bond with Sasuke was a thing that caused the two to rewrite history. This all goes to show that one's failures and bad decisions that they made in the past doesn't have to define them in the present. Naruto was hated by the village, but he eventually gained the support of the village and became the Hokage. Sasuke forced people away, but through the support of Naruto, he began to see the benefit of others and slowly let people in. Through them, we can learn so much. Our friends may not always see eye to eye with us, but at the end of the day, if we unconditionally support them, it's just a matter of time that they will turn back to the light that they have secretly been craving this entire time.